It's the new entry-level Pixel phone from Google. Let's check it out. Dave Taylor here. Oh, hang on. Okay. So, Dave Taylor here, and I'm checking out this. This is the Google Pixel 4a. Now, I've had it for a couple of weeks, and it's pretty sweet. Now, what Google's really trying to do with its Pixel line is it's trying to offer full functionality, really powerful phones at a little bit more affordable pricing. Because honestly, not everyone wants to drop $1,000 or $1,100 on their smartphone. That's a lot of money. So let me give you a quick rundown of its features. It's a 5.8-inch OLED screen running at 2340 by 1080, and it's 443 pixels per inch. And the camera, you can sort of see it here. It's just a little hole punch camera, so it's not the notch and it's not invisible, but honestly, you don't really even notice it. That's obviously for the forward-facing selfies. For all the rear photos, you have a little box with a bunch of different camera spaces, but it turns out that there's just the one camera there, and then there's the one illumination or flash source, but that works fine. I'm gonna give you a lot of demos of different video and photos. We'll get there. Now, it also features a 3140 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty solid. It gives you, like, honestly, I've found that every other day I need to charge it. It does not have wireless charging. That's one of the few things I'm surprised by with this, because Google seems to really like its wireless charging, but not this one. You're going to have to use the USB-C plug at the bottom. The good news is it is USB-C, and the box does include a charger and a USB-C cable and a USB-C to USB 3 adapter. You can check all that out in my unboxing if you want to see what's in the box. Powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 730G. I found it was quite snappy, and it launches apps and everything. It just moves pretty darn fast. There's not much you have to wait for on this phone, which is nice. 6 gig of RAM, 128 gig of storage, and then let's talk about the cameras. So, the rear-facing camera is a 12.2 megapixel f1.7 with a 77-degree view. You can record 4K at 30 frames per second, or at 1080p resolution, it can do 30, 60, or 120 frames a second, or at 720p, it can do 240 frames a second. And the front camera, that little hole punch, is an 8 megapixel. It's an 8 megapixel front camera at f2.0 with an 84 degree view. That's a tricky one. And it also has, and let the angels sing, it has an actual headphone jack. So nice to have that 3.5 millimeter jack. But enough talking about specs, let me give you some examples. So, first off, before we go any further, I want to tell you that I have the really nice Catalyst impact protection case on this, because honestly, it is a nice slim phone. If I take it out of the case, you can see it is sleek, assuming it comes out of the case. Here we go. It is sleek and slim, and honestly, doesn't give you a lot of protection. So, for $39.99, Catalyst sent me this really nice case of theirs, and you can check it out at catalystlifestyle.com, but that's a sidetrack. Let's get back to the phone itself. So, on the phone, I'm going to bring it back up, and let's see what's happening here. Oh, there we go. So, I have photos and I have video. So let's start with the photos. So here's an example of just a regular wide-angle photo. And you can see it's crisp and clean and nice colors and good detail. But when I zoomed in all the way on the phone, you can see it's a whole lot lower resolution, and it's not a very attractive photo, quite honestly. But on the bright side, night sight is actually pretty cool. So here's a photo I took from my front porch last night without night sight, and totally expectedly, there's really no information in the photo at all. But then I turn on night sight, and it takes a couple of seconds to pull in as much information as it can, and then it synthesizes it all, and it makes this photo. And that's pretty remarkable. It was nighttime with very poor illumination, and you can see that's a pretty credible photo there. Now, obviously, if you're taking a picture of action, it's just going to be a blur, because you're literally exposing for a couple of seconds. But still, really neat. I'm really fascinated by how well the night modes are working on modern smartphones. But let's look at video, because video is really where this shines. So, first off, I got a nice long shot of a river and I'm going to zoom in from the widest angle to a pretty typical, like I think this is a 2.3x. And then finally, we're going to zoom in all the way. And again, just like the photo, you can see on full zoom, it's a little rough around the edges. It's not really that pretty. So while we were there, I thought, well, let's try slow-mo. So slow-mo is actually really fun. Check this out. And then finally, time-lapse. It's not really what you want to do on moving water, but certainly like traffic from an overpass or something, it'd be really fun, or someone building something. Time-lapse works really good. And all of that just from this little budget Google Pixel 4a. I am pretty impressed. This is a really nice alternative for someone who wants to be deep in the Google infrastructure and ecosystem and wants to be running the very latest version of Android all the time, because the Pixel line is where Google tests different Android features and stuff, so you'll often be able to get things that no other Android phone can use. I've been using Pixel phones for years and they're always on the cutting edge in that regard, which is pretty slick. So this phone will support 5G, but this particular model I have in my hand does not. The 5G version of the Pixel 4a is supposed to be coming out closer to the end of the year. So if that's something that's really important to you, and it certainly is a smart future hedge against future technology, then you'll want to be careful to make sure that the Pixel 4a you get does include that 5G support. So really, that's everything I've got. There's so much to like on this phone. You know, then the back has a nice centered fingerprint scanner, so you can unlock it with biometrics. It's not doing face scan, which arguably is probably a good move anyway. The screen is maybe a little lower res than those $1,000 smartphones, but honestly, if you want to use this for streaming video or for honestly just like spending hours watching TikTok or something, this is absolutely perfectly good for that. So really a lot to like. I really think Google has gotten the whole idea of these Pixel phones really down. And soon we'll get the Google Pixel 5 and we'll get to look and see what that one includes. But for this is a solid budget option for someone that wants a great Android phone. Yeah, there are some limitations with the camera and everything, but that's sort of to be expected at this price point, and honestly, that's expected with the technology. You can't just magically have infinite zoom without some artifacting. It's just the reality of it. So, all that's left to talk about is the price, and I think you'll be surprised at how inexpensive it is. But before we get to the price, I'm going to ask if you can subscribe to my channel. Really appreciate when you do that. It's just that little red button. Tap it or click it. Great. Thank you. Now, this is the Google Pixel 4a, and it is $349 at Amazon.com, and pretty darn sure that's the unlocked version, so you can put in whatever SIM you want and use it on whatever network you want. It is a solid option, and if you're looking for a sub $400 Android phone that's going to keep you happy for a couple of years, or your kids, or grandma, or the spouse, then this might be really one to be on your short list. So I say check it out, and with that, I will catch you in my next video.